Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Future Swell YouTube channel. My name is Joe. I'm going to be the host of this month's episode of Marine Biologist Reacts. And today we're going to be reacting to some of the worst industries contributing to ocean pollution, contamination, degradation, and marine wildlife loss. There's so many industries around the world that contribute to these sort of things, but there's a very small handful of the worst contributors. Before we get into this video, make sure you're subscribed, like, and comment at the end of this. That really helps us out. And make sure you stick around to the end of this video where I'll tell you the #1 country and #1 company that are contributing to ocean pollution. Let's jump right into the video. I want to break down some of the 5 largest industries that contribute to ocean pollution. #1, deep sea mining. Scientists and environmentalists really don't know the full spectrum of damage that this is going to cause to the oceans. Immediately, deep sea mining definitely damages the benthic environment. Deep sea mining is a direct cause for harm to marine life. It kills some organisms that are too slow by direct contact. Other organisms die based off of sediment plumes and suffocation that happens after the deep sea mining disturbs the seabed. What deep sea mining does is it goes down into the deep sea environment and it removes nodules of precious metals. But what happens when you remove things from an environment is most of the time there's species and organisms that rely on that as some part of their survival. And so when you remove that from the environment, you're going to see a cascading effect down the food chain. And deep sea mining is so new that most studies that have actually analyzed some of those environmental impacts have only been small scale studies on small areas over short amounts of time. There has not been these decades long or centuries long streams of data to pull from that can actually tell us what kind of damages and long lasting impacts this kind of an industry can have. Not to mention the physical destruction, but there's also plenty of noise and light pollution, which you're going to hear is probably a theme in a lot of these big industries because we as humans are introducing a lot of man-made stressors to these environments that otherwise would not have them. #2 on my list for some of the most damaging industries to marine life is the shipping and transportation industry. Now, it's no secret that there are some obvious negative connotations with the shipping and transportation industry in the ocean. Probably the first one that comes to my head is animal strikes and whale strikes. What that means is when a boat actually rams an animal. And I just saw this video of a basking shark getting hit the other day, and it was so sad because it had just had a critter cam installed on it, and it was the first video of an animal actually getting hit by a boat. But on top of the physical challenges is the pollutants and the contributions that many of these large ships can actually introduce into the ocean. So when you're thinking about cruise ships or shipping containers, these are massive vessels that are probably on the ocean for weeks at a time. By them just being in the ocean, there are bound to be leaks and contributions of different types of chemicals into the environment. They also are one of the top contributors to carbon emissions because they're literally like a giant skyscraper on the water, and they just are emitting emissions all day, every day, 24 hours a day. That's not good for the ocean. These large ships, they go around the world, which means that they can very easily transport species between oceans. And a lot of times that introduces a lot of invasive species, which can be detrimental to local populations, especially if those species do very well in that new environment. And the last major contribution by the shipping and transportation industry is the sound. They are incredibly loud. There's this awesome study I suggest you check out if you're interested in this part, where they studied the whale interactions in some of the river inlets in New England, pre and post and during pandemic. Because during the pandemic, a lot of the shipping containers and the shipping channels actually went almost radio silent because there was no large ships coming in and out. And so what they found is that a lot of whales and marine mammals returned to the area that they had previously evacuated for the last 50 years due to those large inputs of sound and auditory influences into their environment. Because marine mammals, one of their biggest adaptations is using echolocation and using the sound in their environment to not only communicate, but to find food and migrate. #3, the oil industry. Obviously, this one is a no-brainer. I mean, most of you watching this video were alive when the BP oil spill happened, and that was so detrimental. You could just always turn on the news and see animals and like birds being covered in oil and people like trying to clean them up. Oil is so damaging when it is not contained. Because these big deposits of oil are buried so deep under earth, they're never coming in contact with the ocean and these marine mammals. And it's not water soluble, so it either floats on top of the ocean or its particles and particulates can actually cling to the marine wildlife, corals, and the nearshore environments, which make it very difficult for marine life to actually sustain itself. And when you combine oil with the shipping industry, and when you're moving these large shipments of oil across the ocean, it's just a matter of time where one of them spills out into the ocean. Number 4, agriculture. It is one of the biggest economic enterprises in almost every single country. It's one of the biggest exports and imports for most first world countries in the world. And unfortunately, there's a lot of byproducts associated with agriculture and its relation to the ocean. When fertilizers and chemicals are used to propel the agricultural success of different crops, unfortunately, a lot of those run off into the ocean just because of rain and how close in proximity many of these agricultural industries are to the watershed. And when those chemicals and those fertilizers enter the ocean, it can mean life or death for many of these nearshore marine ecosystems. It can create anoxic environments in the water. It can suffocate nearshore environments. It can make it uninhabitable. Number 5 is overfishing. This one is also a no-brainer. A lot of these are just no-brainers. Like obviously, if you think about it, you can probably come up with your own list of the top 5 ocean polluters. But overfishing is such a damaging industry. And I'm not talking about sustainable fisheries. That is absolutely not what I'm talking about. There's so many fisheries out there in the world that can be sustainably fished and beneficial to the economy, the environment, and people that are working and living in that industry every single day. I'm talking about the fisheries that are taken advantage of. They're overfished. They're not using science to back a lot of the fishing regulations that they are practicing. And when you do that, you can completely destroy fisheries, collapse ecosystems, and enact serious harm to oceans around the world. Bonus number 6. Number 6 most damaging industry to oceans everywhere is the fast fashion industry. Now, this has been kind of on the forefront of environmentalism the last 10, maybe 20 years. Fast fashion has gone insane. You have things like Temu and Shein, which can produce these, not high quality per se fashion, but very fast fashion and textiles, and they're distributed across the world extremely fast. This is incredibly damaging because it's not using or reusing the kind of textiles that we already have. It's putting a heavy toll on the environment, and it uses all of those industries I've pretty much listed already in this video to ship, transport, and create all of those products for the consumer. So when you contribute and you are a consumer in some of these industries, it's just fueling the fire and making those fast fashion industries a bigger ocean polluter. And they're definitely rising up this list as they go on. Ways to kind of combat this fast fashion industry is go thrifting, hand-me-downs, source those industries and those companies that actually use sustainable methods in their product development. We just launched our Future Swell Bonfire merch store, which is sourced completely sustainably, and they ship everything in secondhand boxes, and they're very environmentally friendly. And doing things like that is a way to combat fast fashion. Still get awesome clothes and look your best, but do it in a way that's a little bit more environmentally conscious. Thanks for sticking around. That's the top 5 industries that are the biggest ocean polluters and ocean destruction contributors in the world. Now I'm going to tell you the number 1 country and the number 1 company that are killing the oceans. It might surprise you, but the first world countries that you would maybe consider a big ocean polluter, like the US or some places in Europe, we don't even make the top 10, even the top 20. All of the top 10 countries that are heavy ocean polluters are in Asia, Southeast Asia, and a few surprising other countries that you might not think about. But the number 1 ocean polluter in the world is the Philippines. There could be many reasons for this. The Philippines is one of the biggest producers of a lot of plastic in the global economy. And because it's an island nation, there's not a lot of land boundaries to contain a lot of the pollution. When you pollute in the Philippines, it's very, very easily introduced into the ocean because it's just a bunch of islands. But it is surprising because I honestly thought China would be at the top of this list. Second on the list is India. Third is Malaysia. And fourth is China. Okay, and now you want to know the number 1 company responsible for contributing the most plastic into the oceans? It's Coca-Cola. I mean, that one's not really that hard to figure out either. It's Coca-Cola, and number 2 is Pepsi. These big soda manufacturers pollute so much plastic into the ocean because that's exactly what their product is. They wrap their product in plastic and they wrap the plastic in plastic. It's just ridiculous how much plastic these companies produce. And they are starting initiatives where they are trying to recycle, but it's such a large scale globally that it is so difficult to actually minimize your pollution contribution to the ocean. Well, that's it for me today, you guys. Thank you so much for sticking all the way around. If you haven't already, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. That really helps us out. And leave a comment if you can think of any other industries that are big top pollution contributors to the oceans, because we can make a video on that. Make sure you head to our Instagram and our TikTok and our website. You can check out all the content and all the projects we're working on here at FutureSwell. And before I forget, make sure you check out our Bonfire merch store. We just launched it. There's some awesome sustainable clothes and branding that you can do to rep FutureSwell. All the proceeds go back into conservation projects and projects we do over here at FutureSwell for ocean education, awareness, and research. We've got a lot of exciting things coming up. And with that, I'll catch you next time. Thanks.